Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Kitchen Table TCG. Excited to share with you the market data. I guess it's not market data, sorry. Excited to share with you the consumer data, maybe you could call it, player data, collectors data, the data that I generated from my forum, my responses in a video a couple days ago. So we had 136 people fill out the form. We had a lot more people watch the video. So those of you who watched the video and didn't fill out the form, shame on you. Anyway, this data is going to be really interesting. I think one thing I want to say is I am not a professional data analysis. That is not what I do. I make videos for a living. So give me some grace there and take whatever you want from the data. But I'm going to share my thoughts as a content creator and as this is kind of the average answers from my viewers. So I thought it was really interesting. So the first question is approximately when did you get involved in Flesh and Blood? And the Survey Monkey didn't tell me that in order to get all 100 data, it was a maximum of 40 I had to pay. So I'm a little disappointed that they didn't give us more information here. So I actually took all the responses and put it in a spreadsheet for you. Let me bring that over for you. I'm sorry about this. And so here is the data that I then calculated out. And I think this is the most interesting stuff in the world. So this is, of all 136 people, this is the question. When did you get involved with Flesh and Blood? Okay. And let's back up. So this guy who got involved in Flesh and Blood in 1993 is probably more rich than any of us because he just saw it coming. So that guy's a liar. And that's the thing, that this data might have some liars in it. It might have some non-disclosures. It might I just wanted to announce that up front. I don't take this data as gospel, but what I do think is that there is some things to be garnished from it. So first off, I've separated all the data out into 2-month increments to kind of gain an idea of the growth over months that's just kind of the way the data made the most sense. So I've separated out to 2-month increments. So some people got involved. The release of WTR was in October of 2019, and so there were people who got involved in before then, and there were some events, there was some stuff that was sent out prior to the release of WTR. So very, very interesting. So just under 1% there, and then I've also put the number of sealed boxes that the people own on the side. So it's interesting to see where people got in, and we'll kind of talk about that as we go, because that was the last question, or that was one of the last questions. So very, very interesting to see. The WTR release kind of drew in about 3% of the current population. I think if you scale this right, maybe I think my channel is general enough that you could potentially scale this data and call it data for the whole community. So approximately 3% of people were kind of involved in that first release. And then this is the question of how many boxes did they keep sealed, right? Like this last question that we're analyzing here, the way that it was written is how many boxes of first edition or alpha product do you own sealed? So this does not just mean WTR alpha. This is all kind of encompassing first edition from Crucible to Arcane to WTR alpha. I did not specify it, in that detail, but interesting to see that lots of those people are keeping sealed product. The WTR release was in October, kind of right here, so that garnished like 3% of people. And then, they kind of picked up, another 1.5% of us in the next kind of, this is December through January. And then February through March, that was kind of a pickup. That was like Arcane Rising pre-release season. Like that was like when it was like announced, because the Arcane Rising release was announced in March. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of lines up with like Monarch, like the hype of Monarch bringing more people into the game. So around 4%. And you can see even more kind of sealed boxes percentages, probably about the same. And then in April through May, sorry, I get those months confused. Another 6% of people, 6 out of 136. And then this is where things start to really, really open up. Is like this would be Crucible of War pre-release season, kind of leading up to Crucible of War. This is 11% of people got involved in Flesh and Blood. And you can see lots of people keeping sealed boxes too. And this is what I've said multiple times. People started seeing the value of these first edition boxes around here, starting to rise up. So, hey, should I keep a box sealed? Blah, blah, blah. And so 11% there. Crucible was released, and then the numbers kind of continued to open. This is around the time that I got involved. I got involved probably in September here when I started really thinking about it, when I bought a couple arcane boxes. And then, so 12%. And then this I put $800 Channel Fireball arcane boxes were WTR boxes were announced here. These are first edition that Channel Fireball got their product in and had it at $800. And that was this kind of timeline. So all in all, another 12% of people involved in these 2 months going to September to October. And then the WTR, and this is the most interesting data to me, the WTR kind of release is when the doors kind of swung a little bit wider open. So we've been 12%, whatever. Now 18%, when the product was more readily available, the amount of people who hop into the game is just more. Because the product is cheaper, it's more available. This was a huge thing. This unlimited release was a huge thing for the game. Very, very important to have product available for people to purchase at prices in order to get into the game. So super interesting there. And, these people also kept sealed boxes. I kind of marked here. This was an interesting response. This was one of the very few 51 pluses. In fact, was it the only 51 plus? Let's see. It was the only 51 plus. There was a 21 to 40 or to 50. There was a couple 21 to 50. I think that this might be Saint from Fabled Hunters, because his video that he posted to the Flesh and Blood Unseals group where he released all of his cases was posted on 12/14. So this could be that information right there. But you can see that a lot of people got involved with this game when the unlimited set was released. But that's not to say that they didn't, go after first edition from Crucible War, or, maybe pick up some other first edition boxes. And then we kind of have a trailing. Compared to the release of WTR Unlimited and Arcane Unlimited, we've kind of trailed off now into a little less people getting involved in the last 2 months. So I thought that was a really, really interesting way to look at that question number one. And, people are still keeping sealed boxes. Even these people who are getting involved, all the way back in January, this is when crew boxes were sitting at $400 or $500. So people are, even if they're keeping sealed boxes at the $400 or $500 mark. Never mind now, where the lowest price of a sealed first edition box is like, $600 to $700. So if you got involved this week, right, and you picked up sealed boxes, you'd be paying $750 per sealed box right now. So, okay. Let's go on to the rest of the questions. That was the first time you got involved. So now I think the questions really open up. It's a lot of fun to look at. What is your past TCG experience? I got to move this over for you again. Sorry. I'm on the wrong thing. What is your past TCG experience? And no surprise here. And this one they could answer multiple times, but 77% of people selected Magic the Gathering. No surprise there, right? Like Rudy from Alpha Investments brought a lot of people into the game, so that that's going to bring a big Magic the Gathering crowd. But I was actually surprised to see that the Pokemon numbers were so high. I guess I'm not that surprised, because our age group, the average viewer on my channel is around 32. So very, very interesting. And I think that Pokemon age was kind of right there. And so that makes a lot of sense to me. But Yu-Gi-Oh did surprise me, the amount of Yu-Gi-Oh players. But I guess maybe that's some of the competitive scene. But that's interesting. And then Star Wars Destiny. And then and I didn't read I guess we have the responses right here. Hearthstone, Card Fight, Vanguard, hockey card collecting, Duel Masters, lots of different things, but not anything, like not any kind of consistent. Yu-Gi-Oh, that was one of the answers. Lots of legacy card games, digital card games. So Keyforge, more Star Wars stuff. Anyway, lots of people came in from Magic the Gathering. Lots of people came in from Pokemon. But there was a decent amount, 8% of people coming into a TCG for the first time as a result of Flesh and Blood is nothing to scoff at. That's a pretty good number there of people who had not had any TCG experience moving forward. All right, next question was, what makes you most excited for Flesh and Blood? And this was the kind of question: Are you a player, a competitive player? Are you just here for collecting, or are you investing, or what is the other? And we'll get into the others in a minute. But playing casually, around 22%. This is kind of I would fall in this, like playing casually or collecting. But I was excited to see that 30% of people playing competitively, which makes the overall numbers over 52% of people are here just to play, and that's pretty much where I thought we would be. 52% of people most excited about Flesh and Blood. And here's the key here is that the question was most excited, right? So just because people said collecting doesn't mean they aren't also playing. And we'll get into the next number here, how many average games per week do you play. But the collectors can also be players. They're just more excited about collecting. I would honestly have a really difficult time choosing between collecting and playing casually. I'm not a competitive player. I know I won't win events. I know I won't win tournaments. I'll win some stuff in my local scene probably. But the idea of collecting really I love. Like, I've always been a collector. But I also love the idea of playing casually. So if people selected this, that doesn't mean that they aren't playing, is what I want to highlight. And then only 14 people of the 136, so 10%, are here kind of just for investing. Let's see what the other responses was. Collecting and playing. Everything about it. The game is amazing. Playing limited formats and collecting. Okay. All the above. Playing. Yeah, so that's basically what I was saying. Couldn't select more than just one. All of the above, getting back into TCG, entering the competitive, learning to sell cards, the community. I love playing the game casually. Most importantly, meeting new people in the community. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, a lot of what exactly we just said. All right, so on average, how many games of Flesh and Blood do you play in a week? And this is where I said, okay, we're in the middle of a pandemic, okay? The game is incredibly collectible and investable, and only 23% of the people don't play a game a week. Until 2 weeks ago, I was having a hard time playing a game a week. And so this is where I think the health of the game is just phenomenal. 50% of the people would play 1 to 3 games per week. 16% of the people play 4 to 5 games a week. I would kind of probably fall in the 4 to 5 games a week, probably. 20% or 14% of the people play 6 to 10 times. Look at this guy right here. 1%. He plays 31 games a week. That's crazy. So the game, I think, is really healthy. In the middle of a pandemic, most Magic the Gathering players wouldn't say that they play more than 1 to 3 times a week in the middle of this pandemic. Games a week. I mean, most of them are playing Commander right now. I guess if you are running an event somehow, I guess if you used maybe like Arena, I'm talking about paper in play. And most of this is happening on Discord servers and whatnot. But I just thought that was really, really interesting. I don't want to compare too much to Magic, but I think the state of the game is really healthy because this number isn't 0. The biggest number isn't 0. That's what tells me it's healthy. Okay, which format? No surprises here. I shouldn't even put this as a question. Blitz is definitely the most played. That's what LSS has been highlighting the most right now. It all totally makes sense. Interesting to see, people do want classic construction. I think we're going to move back towards that a little bit with the next set. And, the draft is a little lower than I thought it would be, but maybe that's just because sealed is such a better format in Flesh and Blood. And it also it's harder to do this, right? For new players who have gotten involved recently, it's harder to draft or do sealed because it's harder to do it on webcam. So that could be interesting. And then poor little Ultimate Fight Pit sitting right there. Ultimate Pit Fight. Okay. Would you like to see a player versus environment format? And this one was asked kind of biasly because I'm very excited about it and I wanted to know if other people are excited about it. And 60% of people said, yes, I would love to see a player versus environment format. And maybe that's just people saying that any format is good for the game. But, not many people were against it. And then, some people said it's not for me, but I see the value. Oh, I already put that in there. So I guess this to me says that 60% of people are interested in actually playing the format. And 31 people, so 22%, said they don't know what that is. And we need to change that. And that's where I want to land is like, I hope we can help people understand what this kind of player versus environment format is, where you're playing against a some sort of a system, or somebody else is playing the bad guys, like so very interesting there. I'm excited to see if they do something with the PvE in Flesh and Blood. All right, favorite class. I thought this was fun. Favorite class of everybody was ooh, that's spicy. I actually didn't notice that. Warrior had 27 versus the Ranger at 22, so very close. Ninja at 24. So who would have thought Ranger would be that high? Oh, that's nuts. So Warrior, no surprise there. Ninja, no surprise there, right? Dorinthia and Ira are kind of the meta right now. I thought that Runeblade might be a little bit higher, but you can see that it appears that the WTR classes are definitely more played or more liked than the arcane classes. Mechanologist, Runeblade, Wizard, Ranger. I guess it's not too terribly skewed. Yeah, I mean Guardian is the lowest, so it's not terribly skewed. Merchant, Shapeshifter, just there for the fun. I think this was my vote actually. Okay, so interesting responses there. Obviously, the least favorite is the Guardian. The most favorite is the Warrior, Ninja. I don't think there's any surprises there, and very, very cool. And then what is your estimated investment? So this is where it gets really interesting. So this one, it was really cool to see. This was like, how much money do you think that you have spent on Flesh and Blood cards? And then the next question is, how much money do you think your Flesh and Blood cards are worth? And so super interesting. So the average person, these people who spent less than $100, maybe they bought one booster box, right? This is, maybe somebody bought a case, right? They bought, I think a great way to get into Flesh and Blood is to buy a case of Unlimited, and you get lots and lots of cards, and then you can build probably a pretty decent deck from all those cards. So a lot of people probably got into that in this way. And now this is kind of where you start seeing collectors and people trying to, maybe fill out a set. At this point, you're at maybe four cases of an Unlimited set, maybe 5 cases of an Unlimited set. So this was the highest one. Almost 42% of people said they spent up to $2,000. But this was the one that surprised me. The money here, $2,000 to $5,000 at 20%. These other numbers don't surprise me that much. But here's what I love, right? The highest percentage of people spent up to $2,000. But the growth, the estimated value skews towards the 10,000. The upwards into this kind of data. The average would sit probably somewhere around 5,000, whereas your average here would probably be sitting more like 2,000. So really, on average, the people who have bought into this game have doubled their money, and I love that. Like, I just love that that's a truth. And then some people have really, 4 people have invested 50 to 200,000. And 10 people are in that category, and 2 people are upwards of 200,000. So I just thought that was really interesting. It's, the money is growing. Like the people are not losing money. I think if you were to ask this question with the same data ranges of like, hey, I got into Magic the Gathering in the same data ranges, where would your money be? I mean, you'd be out. You'd be losing so much money. So I love that question. I love to see kind of how the data skews towards people gaining money and really nobody losing money, which is fantastic. It feels good in a collectible card game to not lose money. Last one, we kind of went through how many boxes of Alpha do you have. Most people, 50% of people don't own any first edition product. I thought that was pretty interesting. First edition, 50% of people don't own any. The vast majority of the people who own it, so 25% of total people own between 1 and 3 boxes of first edition product, and then it kind of separates out to most people owning really, probably average between these higher numbers is probably in this kind of 10 area. But most people, it looks like, who have sealed boxes are only keeping 1 to 3 boxes sealed. Maybe they're buying a bunch of first edition and keeping 1 box sealed or whatever that is. And very, very few people, obviously. One person has 50 plus and 7 people. So that's a total of about 5% of people carrying that amount of boxes. So anyway, that's all the data that I pulled up. I'd love to hear what you think in the comment section. It was a lot of fun. I'm gonna try to do this kind of regularly. I'm gonna ask better questions. I'm not gonna use SurveyMonkey because it cost me $100 just for the stupid survey for a month. And they didn't even tell me. They didn't tell me until I went to get the data. It was like, yeah, in order to see the data, you have to be a member. I was like, what? Like, why wouldn't you tell me that beforehand? Anyway, so I think the data is super interesting. I think the game is in a really, really healthy spot right now. I'll probably do another one of these kind of at the end of the year, and it'll be really interesting to see how many people came in at Monarch and Kingdoms, because I want to see kind of when a new set comes out, how does it affect the fluctuation of people into the market, and I think that's really, really helpful information to see. So anyway, I hope you have a good day. I hope that you're being kind to the people around you, and good luck to all the patrons who are in my my Discord Armory event tonight. It's going to be a ton of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. We'll see you for the market update for Crucible War here in a couple hours, and I hope you have a good day.